the songs I've been given, that's what they're supposed to do, is make people not feel so alone, feel understood, feel heard. To me, the songs that I'm writing are meant to feel like a big hug. You're understood, you're loved, you are here for a reason. Like you've been placed here in this life for a reason, and I want that for my songs. I want people to feel like I understand. I get I get where you're coming from, and I feel that way too. And I'm really glad that you shared that or whatever. That's what I feel like that's really what it's all about, is that.
Please take a second to leave us a 5-star review on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you're listening. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, hit the thumbs up, and leave us a comment. You can find Come and Pick It at comeandpickitpodcast.com. You can sign up for our email list, and that's where you're going to get the most up-to-date information about all the stuff we've got going on, including new episodes, live shows, music releases, and more. All right, on with the show.
Well, hey, y'all. Welcome to Come and Pick It. I'm Anthony Bonnette, and today's guest is Meredith Crawford. Meredith, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing okay. We're over here in East Texas right now. We're in the Longview area. Where are you?
I'm in East Texas as well. I'm based out of a little town called Chandler, so that's
Okay.
where I'm.
I know where Chandler's at.
But that's where I am.
That's cool. So that's pretty neat. You're semi-local.
Yep, I am.
So you're an East Texas girl, and I'm an East Texas girl myself. I mean, boy.
I like it. I like that attitude. I'm an East Texas girl too.
Were you born and raised in Chandler?
Yes, sir. I was born in Tyler, but I've been here basically my whole life.
Okay.
I lived in Missouri for about a year when I was really young, and got back ASAP.
As soon as possible.
It's a good place to visit. It wasn't for my living. It wasn't good for living.
Well, if you're like me, all my people and all my friends, all my people I grew up with, all my family, they're all here. They all live in Ore City. So, going out, leaving town and living somewhere else was hard on me.
I agree. Yeah, that's how it was for me too. It was when I had just had my son. I was 18 when I had him, and then I got pregnant when I was up there again. So it was just, I didn't have my support system there. So yeah, it definitely takes a village to raise a child.
It does, and you don't understand how important those people. Even if you don't see them there, if you don't see them all the time. I mean, we live maybe 15 or 20 minutes from all my folks. We don't see them every day, but just being in the vicinity, them being there, gives you such a lot of support spiritually and otherwise.
Oh yes, for sure. Yeah, my folks were missing me too. They definitely were glad I came home, and I'm glad to be home.
So I will say that your speaking voice gives me I already knew you were a Chandler girl. But your speaking voice is a lot more East Texas than your singing voice. Your singing voice is really worldly, and some phrases you can still hear it, but you got kind of a worldly thing.
Well, thank you. I definitely try to not sing to East Texas, but I think that kind of that helps. I think people like to hear that, and but yeah, I definitely have been told like your singing voice and your talking voice. I don't get it, but but I just talk the way I talk. Right. I don't know. I can't help
it. Yeah, I definitely get that. So how do you feel
Yeah.
like that has being kind of from East Texas and it's kind of a semi-rural kind of area? How do you think that's given you some separation from other artists kind of in your genre?
I think so. I definitely think so. I mean, it's a different world in East Texas for me. Like it's a huge chunk of like we're in a huge part. Texas is a huge state, but there's so much going on just in one area, and it feels like as far as like community and music community in East Texas, it's very spread out. It's still there. You can still kind of keep all these little moving networks connected, but it's definitely, the musician per capita is not the same like in Nashville or in Austin, and it's a little bit more like, if you want it, you got to go out there and get it. It's different. I guess it kind of there's advantages and there's disadvantages um for being from this area and wanting to pursue music.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, but everybody's got to come from somewhere. So, I'm like, I guess there's a reason
That's true.
why I'm from here. And, whenever people, you get people, they go, "Where are you from?" Well, I gotta be from somewhere, so, you know. So, anyways,
Well,
it's
it's
got its
probably not that
advantages, but it's
important to them. Yeah,
yeah.
I can see that. So as far as your songwriting, do you feel like that that influenced you, just this East Texas area, the vibe here? Did that influence your writing?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, a lot of, I mean, a lot of those things I write about, I mean, it's from living here and raising kids here and, trying to, I guess, I don't know, I guess kind of establish roots and keep those things going. And I mean, you can only, for me, my buddy Zach Aaron says you can only, what is it? He says you can only write about what you see or whatever, and something like that. But when I
Mm-hmm.
think of your question, I think of that. Like, yeah, I mean, it's you know, the different like my family, my friends, my kids, my whole life has been here, and so definitely in the songwriting, there's you can't help but just talk about your life and what's going on and the ups and downs of it. And you know uh just being born and raised here, there's a lot of pain around. There's pain everywhere in the world, but
Mm-hmm.
you know
There is.
I happen
Mm-hmm.
to be here and paying attention. So
Right.
I'm writing about what I see and writing about what I experience and what other people experience and feel. So
Definitely.
it's definitely there's
Yeah.
definitely like a, I don't know, what do you want to call what should we call it? Piney wood pain. I don't know. There's a kind of there's just this kind of
Hmm.
thing in it. I don't know. There's like a little bit of a sorrow in it. It's a I don't know.
Yeah.
It's an interesting part
Yeah.
of
This is kind of the where the pine curtain starts here.
it is.
So,
Yeah.
what's that song? That song, "In the Pines,"
Uh-huh.
in the pines, where the sun never shines.
Yep. Yeah. That's definitely
Yeah.
there's a there's I don't really know how to explain it. It's hard because when you're from the area, people are like, well, what's it like over there? And you're so in it that you're like, I have to really remove
Hmm.
myself out of it to tell you what it's like. And I'll tell you, like being on the road and coming home, it's I don't know, it's weird. It's like seeing all these other parts of Texas and how their communities, just work, and then coming home, it's like, I don't know. I always like coming home, but I definitely am ready for a little bit of a change, I think. I've always been told, like,
Well, we're definitely
good to be
different
r
here.
yeah, yeah, it's definitely like, I've been told
Mm.
it's good to grow up here, and it's good to get old here. But the stuff you do in the middle, maybe you ought to
Mhm.
venture out and go somewhere else.
Yeah, that's not a
So,
terrible idea.
Yeah.
Well, that happened to us too. We moved out to Los Angeles when we were in our 20s and stayed for a few years, and in Dallas for a few years, and then
Yeah.
hurried back. I mean, we got back as soon as we could, but
Yeah.
it is strange to me going because we went out there and I sing and write some. So we went out to the West Coast and I was trying to play, just acoustic in a few bars there, and they didn't know what to do with me. I thought of myself as this kind of a, not a super country kind of guy. But when they heard what I was doing, it was just country music. It might as well have been Hank Williams Sr.
Yeah.
for them, and for me, it was edgy kind of stuff. So it does kind of put you in. It puts who you are in perspective in context of the whole country leaving. If you don't leave, you never know that. Like you always think you're this edgy person.
Yeah, no, I definitely think you got to get out of town and you got to get your teeth kicked in a few times by different.
Definitely.
I think that's nothing grows in the comfort zone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I wrote some good stuff out there. Some of my favorite stuff. I learned a
Yeah.
lot about who I am out there and got back here as soon as I could.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. It's tough to, well, when you're from this area and you I don't know, I feel kind of like I've fished out the pond. Like I played all there is to do here. And I mean, there's still opportunities, but it's like in order to keep going and to grow, you have to
Mm-hmm.
you have to leave the area. You can't, nobody knows who you are if you don't,
Mm-hmm.
so
Right.
and that's definitely something important to me now is that
Yeah, definitely.
I can be known in East Texas, but I want to go elsewhere too and take my music in other,
Right.
other areas, other regions. So yeah, got to
Yeah,
go get
I
defeated
definitely think
somewhere.
there's value there. I mean, yeah, for sure. Yeah, you've taken punches here. You know what that's like.
Oh yeah.
So when did you start writing songs, and what was kind of the impetus for your songwriting?
Yeah, I started writing when I was in high school, and I loved English class when I was in high school, and I loved just the way that like reading a really good book, like we read The Scarlet Letter and The Great Gatsby, and the way that these writers could just paint such a story. You can almost smell the flowers, that they're, and this elaborate way of writing. I don't know, I was just so kind of swept off with it, and so I have listened to country
Mm-hmm.
music my whole life, my entire life, and it's been a huge part of my upbringing. And so just how it is, like when you listen to songs and those lyrics get stuck in your head, and you almost like start to pay attention to the pattern of songs and the writing
Mm-hmm.
and the rhyming schemes, like, oh, some like girl and world, like those things. I don't know. I feel like I was there'd be like these songs. I'm like, oh, but they're gonna rhyme girl next after world. Like I would just kind
Mm-hmm.
of almost overanalyze it and when you're a kid and you got a whole blank slate of a brain. That's how I used that blank slate of a brain. I was really, really studying lyrics and songwriting and so anyways, it started really in high school and just being in English class and all the wonderful language that, I got to read about, and read all that kind of stuff. I just like, well, why don't I just start writing my own stuff and trying to, tell a story the way I'd spin it or whatever. So that's kind of where it started,
Mm-hmm.
was high school.
Okay.
Ooh,
So
I
high
got bit by the
school, you
bug.
were. So you were singing before that. I read where you grew up singing in church, which that's the case with me too. Did you? But
Yeah.
when did you first get a guitar, and did you use a guitar in your first attempt at songwriting?
Yes, I did. I bought this little cheap little pawn shop guitar with my my first one of my first little shows. I played the Glaybar Saturday Night Opry, and I used all my tip money to go buy this little cheap pawn shop guitar. So I bought this little guitar, and my mom bought me this big old fake book. It was like this. It's like a phone book full of country music songs, and so it shows you how to do the different chords with all
Mm-hmm.
these different songs. And so just kind of
Mm-hmm.
like finding out those different patterns and those progressions, and then just definitely like, I mean, it was so fun to learn how to play guitar. And then once those transitions started coming into place, it was almost like melodies would just get fed to me. Like I would just hear, I was just like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I could say this, or whatever. And it just kind of took off from there. It was really cool. It was really crazy how all those little components kind of come together, and you're writing songs, you know, with a cheap little pawn shop guitar.
Absolutely.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you learned how to
Yeah.
play the guitar as a songwriter. So you were learning to play the guitar as you were learning to write.
Basically, yeah. It kind of went hand in hand. Just, like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of hard to do one without the other. It just, they fed each other
Yeah.
basically.
Right. Yeah, I had kind of the same experience. So that's exactly how it happened for me. So
Yeah.
do you feel like the song, as far as the muse, do you feel like the song for you comes from the melody or from a turn of phrase or just like a feeling you get? How does a song start usually for you?
Yeah, I mean, for me it starts in multiple ways. It could literally be I'm watching a movie and something that someone says in the movie spawns a line, and then a melody comes along. I've had a couple of times where I've literally woke up dreaming about a song that I hadn't written yet. Like I woke up with a melody in my mind going, "Oh crap,
Hmm.
that's a okay, I got to, so it really just it just takes over when it's time. And I definitely try to like, I've done a couple of different like songwriting groups where you like write a song a week, and you kind of keep that muscle going, your songwriting muscle going, because sometimes you can't just depend on, when the moment's right and the song hits you. Sometimes you just, but I think it's important to to pay attention to what your mind will naturally feed you, what your thoughts will naturally feed you,
Hmm.
as far as melody, or you know I don't think it's sometimes I like will think of a good title and I'll be like, man, that title is really compelling, but there's no song with it. It's like it's just a good
Hmm.
title, and then sometimes the title's really good and then a song will come from it. But I guess my weakest points of origin into a song is trying to start with a title. That's where I'm like,
Really?
I don't know. But I've been writing since I was 16, so I'm learning my tricks. You know, Sometimes the title is not the rabbit hole to follow.
Yeah. Yeah, I've have
Oh,
some good
oh gosh,
titles, I
I'm
think,
here and
that
there.
that I've got keep in stock, but I hadn't used them. I hadn't used them in so long, and they kind of seem like old hat to me now. And I never wrote the song around it, so
Yeah,
evidently they weren't that
yeah,
good.
yeah. I don't know. I feel like I got like just a notes in my phone. It's just all like titles. Could be songs, just titles.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, or
yeah,
hooks, or
yeah,
yeah. I do the same thing.
yeah.
So give me a crazy place you've been when you were inspired. So when a song that just kind of came out, because I've had a few that just kind of manifested like all of a sudden, at least like the first verse and the chorus, and then I would work through the rest.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to think of like the quickest song I've written, or I guess there was one song I wrote. It was uh, here was the story. The song's called "But I Do," and it's a song about like a single mom, single woman, and it was spawned off something that my husband said that just pissed me off. And it was so funny. I mean, I wasn't that upset about it, but in the moment, I was like, I'm gonna use this and get upset and write a song about it. But anyways, we're in the backyard, and he was roping this little my son had made this little wooden stump dummy, and he was, we were roping it or whatever and being silly, and he was roping it, and he's getting pretty good at it. And someone asked him, like, do you do this professionally? And he was like, well, no, if I wasn't, if I was doing this professionally, I wouldn't be here, and it made me think, like, oh, he doesn't want to be here, like, if he had his choice. And that's not what he meant, but for me to like, that's how my mind initially took it in. It was like, oh crap, he doesn't want to be here. So I kind of just channeled that sadness into a song, and I wrote a song, not really about, it wasn't about my life in that current place, but my life in the past, being a single mom. It's a song about, like, basically, you got kids you're raising, and you're trying to pick up the pieces of your life and move on and try to find someone that fits your lifestyle as a single parent, and that is not easy to do. And so it's basically, there's a guy that always comes into town, and he only stays long enough to just kind of make her heart rise, and then just to let her down. And so the song is, you don't want to say I do, but I do. Like, it's like, I want commitment, and so, but that song just,
Yeah.
I don't know, lots of pain there. And I've been that person before. So I just kind of, I don't
Yeah.
know what happened. It was like an old hat, just, Meredith from however many years ago. It was like, I remember that woman, and that song just poured out
Yeah.
because I think a lot of us don't unpack some of that stuff, some of that pain, and that was the time to unpack it. It just came out
Yeah,
in that
definitely.
song. But yeah, it got written in maybe like 30
Yeah.
minutes. It was crazy.
Wow. Whole song beginning to end.
Yeah. Yeah, just
Wow.
like,
That's impressive.
but it was, yeah, but it was like, I think it was just time to unpack that stuff. And, for me, I don't, that songwriting is my therapy, I don't know
Right.
if a shrink would want to hear
You're
all the
just
things I think about.
you're just journaling
Yeah.
and then playing the guitar
Yeah.
at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's my therapy.
Do you remember the first song you wrote?
I don't actually. Well, hold
You
on.
really don't?
Yeah, I don't think I do. I mean, if I did, I've hidden it and stashed it away where it'll never be found.
Right.
Maybe I was
Yeah,
a little
exactly.
embarrassed or whatever. But, I mean, I don't know.
Right.
There for a while when I was in high school, I would like write almost one a day. It was
Really?
that kind of, like, it was that just in my blood, that I just was like constantly just trying to find a way to write. So I think I wrote maybe too much. Don't even remember. I have like a huge tub of just journals upon journals of just stuff, just writing, and some of it's okay, some of it's like not good at all. But it's, I
It's
think you need
what's
to go have it. Like, you need to keep it.
it's
Yeah.
funny that some people are musical and they're also literary, like they love to read and they love stories, but for some people it never turns out that they write songs. They never get around to it, or they never feel brave
Yeah.
enough to let that intimate part of themselves out into the world or something. It's
Yeah.
crazy that it happened. Like, for me, it was just always going to happen. Because
Yeah.
I'm a little bit like you, where I love words, I love turns of phrase, I love poetry, and I also love
Mhm.
music equally. So it was just
Yeah.
always it was always going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't imagine, like, living in a world where I wasn't songwriting. But I mean, and
Hmm
people, like, I think that's I think people are actually they actually have a lot of creative energy within them, but I think it's sometimes it's we have that imposter that lives up here that says like you're not good enough to write that or you're not good enough to do that or whatever, and that's not true. You really have to you have to tell that person, to all those voices, to shut up and do what do something, because when you're creative, it I don't know why, but there is no feeling like it in the world when you write something that teaches you something. You go like, "Holy
Hmm.
crap. I can't believe
Right.
that came through me. What did I just I
Hmm.
don't feel like I was even doing it, you know?" So,
Hmm.
I feel like there's a lot of stored creativity in people, and they're too scared to release it, and it's a shame because just I've seen so many wonderful people not, you know, not just they stay in their own way, and I'm one of them. I need to get out of my own way sometimes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
especially young people. I said that happens so much with young people that I'm around. Like they don't want to put themselves out there enough to let people see that. And I think that's so
yeah,
sad because it's the most special thing in the world to me.
yeah, it for sure, and I think the fear of rejection that keeps a lot of people. I mean, I get scared of it. I hate like not being able to connect to an audience or not being able to, whatever. It keeps a lot of people from following something or from, from coming up with something really cool. It's always, you know, like it's kind of sad. It's real sad.
Yeah,
But,
I think
it's
so too.
I think I think the more you get rejected, the more immune you get to it, and you're just kinda like every time that you have a loss, just you have to think of a win. "Oh, well, I had a win the other day. Well, that was a win," like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's definitely tough, but yeah.
It is tough. Yeah, for sure. So
Yeah.
let's turn a little corner here. I want to ask you, when you upload a song for distribution, what genres do you click? What do you select? Because your music is eclectic, and a lot of people use that word, but yours definitely is. It's like a combination of a lot of different stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I get in a lot of, heated discussions with Chris, my husband, about it because it's definitely it's definitely a little country, it's definitely a little rock and pop sounding sometimes, kinda folky, um, kinda synthy new wave stuff, and really, I just kinda have been filing it under Americana. And definitely
Hmm.
with this new album I'm getting ready to put out, it's definitely I'm trying to steer it to where it's not such a shotgun approach. There's not all these different music styles going on. It's more of like a bullet, like this is country. You can rest easy. This is a country record or whatever. But
Right.
I also don't like being put in boxes. I can't stand it because I like to write all over the place. I love music, and I get inspired by all kinds of styles and stuff, so it's really hard for me to just say, like, what genre it is. I would say I just kinda say Americana. I think that's the most, like, palatable explanation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big enough umbrella that you can still let your songs be what they are. That's what I always do with my because my it kind of I want to let the song be what it was because it was a certain thing when I was hearing it in my head, and it wasn't
Yeah.
a country song necessarily. So your recent single "Shut Your Mouth" and the ones I heard from that record, they were country songs, or that they came across that way. They had that awesome steel
Yeah.
guitar in there and the fiddle, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so is your new one kind of the same in the same vein?
Yes, yeah, the new one's definitely, it's definitely country. It's got a little bit of, it's definitely it still has that little weird streak in it, and you know, I for me, that's if whenever you hear that weird stuff, like, just know that the brain behind that is Chris Rasco. He's so good at just, like, putting in these weird little textures, and, he loves synthesizers,
Mm.
that's his thing, so you'll probably hear some weird, like, "What's that?" Or this or that, but, for the most part, we're conditioning it, and it's more of a country album, so but, yeah, we still like to
I
put
love
those
that you threw
weird
him under
things
the bus
in
there.
there. Yeah, yeah. Oh, no, he's a genius in my eyes. I just I can't I
Mm.
there's no way that I would be able to do any kind of music like I've done so far without him. He is Yeah, he's a huge part of it.
So he's the musical imagination in the group.
Yes, yeah. I will say I think my chords like I can come up with, a decent melody and a decent chords, and it's like he just comes right and he's like, "Oh, I got this idea." Like I don't know really how to explain it other than it's just pure. I don't know. Uh, I'm very lucky. I count my lucky stars every day that I've met him and that we get to play music together. And every time I don't get to play music with him, it's really lonely. He's a huge part.
Isn't that sweet?
I love him. I love
So
him.
is he the does he produce your records, or is he how is he involved with your
Yeah.
records?
So he's definitely a producer of it. Mostly, I mean, pretty much all of it he's producing, but also we have a friend of ours named Daryl Edwards. He's producing too, and engineering. It's
Okay.
those two, and then I've worked with like Christian over at Good Shed, Christian Diebert. I always say his not his last name wrong, but anyways, we so I've worked with a couple of different of them, and most of the time it's Chris kind of producing in the front seat, and I'm co-producing too.
Right.
I'm trying to help, but I
Yeah.
just it's kind of like building the song is like building. You frame the house, get a good
Hmm.
foundation, studs are up, maybe a roof, but I I really like to see Chris and his brain kind of take off when it comes to like, okay, well, I'm gonna fit the house out now. I'm gonna bring the color and the curtains and all
Yeah.
the whatever. I really depend on him for a lot of that. I hear things in my head, but I really trust his intuition and his judgment.
Yeah, interior design. That he's the interior design of your
He
of your
is.
house
He's the
metaphor.
decorator. Yeah, yeah,
There you go.
yeah. He's the decorator.
No, the producer role is kind of a two or three hat thing. I use Chad Malden at Malden in Gladewater, and he's
Yes.
kind of a multi hat kind of guy. So he does
Yeah.
the mechanical production, the knobs and the levers, but he also has a really good head for arrangement and for the little decorative stuff too. So
Yeah.
yeah, you need both
Yeah.
things.
You do for sure. Oh yeah.
Hmm. So who played the steel in that Shut Your Mouth?
Um. Okay, so that was actually a guy. I think he's based out of Nashville. His name's Travis Toy. Uh,
Hmm.
Pretty sure he played steel on that one. Yeah, he's amazing. He's
That
got
was
good. I mean,
really
yeah,
good.
it was slick, slick, so good.
Yeah. Hmm. Now, do you have a select group of guys that you kind of pull in for most records, or because your records are so different from one to the next, or they have been? Do you
Yeah,
have a select
yeah.
group of guys? Do you use your band guys?
I do. I use my drummer Chris Gafford and then Chris Rasco, of course, for guitar work, and then I
Hmm.
have my bassist Jonathan Wilson. I use them for kind of the core structure of the song, but working with Daryl has a lot of different lines out in Nashville for people that he knows and that he, has worked with. And so there's a couple of different people that like Josh Schilling, I think is his name, Josh Schilling. He's from Nashville, or I think he's based out of that area. But anyways, he does a lot of the piano work. So he did the piano work for Wild
Mm-hmm.
Card. He did some of the
Love that
piano
song.
work for Thrift Store Fun. Yeah, he did an amazing job, and they're just so I guess every song's different. I guess every song kind of pulls in different people in based off what it needs, and it's very eclectic. I will say
Mm-hmm.
it's I'm not doing real good on the consistency thing. uh, that
Well,
would
that's
probably
okay.
serve me better.
You're a
Yeah,
songwriter.
yeah.
Yeah,
I'm a
you gotta
scatterbrained
be you gotta
songwriter.
be true to those songs.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, these
do
songs
you
they're all
definitely?
different. You're in a different mood, and and you're a different person from day to day. But you're
Yeah,
thinking different things, you're feeling a different way, and the songs just come out the way they are. And I
yeah.
think it's
That's
important
for
to
sure.
be true to them.
Yeah, I agree.
So to talking about your songs, I really liked your song "Ghost to You" on your YouTube channel earlier this year. Well, tell me something about those lyrics.
Oh, okay. Well, it's a funny story. I took my daughter to see Treaty Oak Revival at a Bonita Creek
Mm-hmm.
Hall, and I was definitely like I felt like a grandma in that crowd. It was just a bunch of young kids, and I don't know. I just felt so like out of place. But we were there, and the concert was so hyped up. It was so energizing. It made me feel like I was like 19 again. And on the way home, we're driving home, and we're still kind of amped up from the concert and whatnot. And I told Annie, I said, let's write a song together. Let's kind of feeding off that energy. We're driving home, we're coasting down from the concert, we're cooling off. Let's like do something. Let's write a song. Let's use this energy and like write. And she passed out, and I just kind of started coming up with these lyrics. And I think it really started with I just had an image in my head. Like when I lived in Missouri, we lived in this little house, and it was just a little, 2 bedroom, 1 bath, kind of little short kind of farm home looking house. And it had this porch on it. And just I don't know why, but like that porch was kind of, I don't know. There's just so much pain, so many really sad things that happened inside the home. The porch was like the only way to kind of get out of it, to sit on it, just to kind of be separated from the energy going on in the
Mm-hmm.
house. And so there were many nights where I raised my son in that home, and his dad worked nights at a nursing home, and I worked days at a daycare. It was so weird, these totally two polar opposite worlds, but I spent so many nights alone in that house. And
Mm-hmm.
and I was young. I was only 19 years old whenever all this was going on, and I was pregnant with Annie and raising, like, Wyatt wasn't even a year old before I got pregnant again. And so there was just so much pain in that home, and that porch was like the only place to kind of get away from it. And so I remember taking Wyatt out on the porch and just needing to be out there so I didn't have
Mm-hmm.
to just be in the home, because in the home I felt like, I just kind of felt invisible. um like my feelings didn't matter, my suffering didn't matter. I felt like a ghost. I
Mm-hmm.
felt invisible in that home. And Annie never lived in that home really, but Annie and me have a very, like, I don't know, it's weird. She can sense what I'm thinking. She knows me really, really well, and I feel like she's definitely, I think she's gonna be a songwriter. She just doesn't know it yet. but definitely got
Hmm.
she's got such a beautiful way of feeling things and being able to express it in such a way that like it's really moving. And so I really wanted her to almost like go back to that moment with me and kind of try to come up with just different lyrics and lines and you know, but she took a nap and it was probably best because I shouldn't take her to that moment. You know, that's a very it was still a very
Right.
intimate place for me, you know, and but, so that song
Right.
really just kinda came from, you know, sitting on the porch alone, I'm the only one home, and I've been here for ages and nothing changes. Like, it's just there
Right.
was so much pain in that house, and it's so strange that the porch kinda felt like the only way to escape it, and,
Yeah.
I don't know, I just that it really started with the visual of that porch, and then
Hmm.
it happened. The lyrics just kinda came
That's
out of nowhere. It was time to unpack it,
well. It's no
you
wonder
know?
that song is. It's no wonder it's so powerful because it still sounds like it's like echoing in you a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I think when you write it, it gets a little easier to think about it. The more that you sing it, you know, it's like
Hmm.
the more you are able to kind of put away some of the pain and go like, "That was a part of my
Hmm.
life, but I got this song out of it." And it's, I think it's been really well received. Every time I play it, for the most part, people really connect to it, and, you know, um, I don't know, it's still one of those songs that's still kinda ringing in my ears too.
Yeah. So is that one of your favorite songs you've written?
Um, yeah, I think so. I mean, I definitely I definitely like it a whole lot, and it's some days it's, easier to sing it, some days it's not so easy to sing it, you know, but, as far as, like, vocally, I mean, and I feel like I
Hmm.
do that to myself sometimes. I write vocal melodies that I can't always execute, but, I do love it because I do love it because I'm at peace with the story behind it, you know?
Hmm.
I think it's one of
Yeah, it's a
those where
great
it's
story.
yeah,
It it has a great heart, and it really expresses itself pretty well,
yeah,
and it suits
yeah.
your voice, I think, too.
Well, thank you. Uh,
So you have a reputation for being able to read a room and knowing which song to play. Sometimes that goes to you might not be the right one to play. So
yeah,
how do you build that connection with a live audience?
um, well, it's not honestly, I'm coming home from a few shows where I don't feel like I was able to hold up that reputation very well. Like, you know how it is. Some shows are just not
Mm.
you you're
Mhm.
not gonna get anybody to pay attention to you, and that doesn't mean that it's anything
Mhm.
it's not your fault, it's not their fault, it's just not the right room. And, I think sometimes whenever whenever I'm whenever I'm trying to read a room, if I'm not connecting, normally I'll throw in a cover. I'll throw in like a cover that is kinda unexpected and something that, you know, maybe who
Mhm.
knows, that what's that song? Going up the country, you know, "I'm going on up the country, baby, don't you wanna go?" Like that song normally
Yeah,
has
that's a good
way
one.
of yeah, it
Mm.
kinda it can put people in a good mood, so, you know, sometimes, just I guess just kinda knowing, you know, your crowd, you know, some people wanna hear sad
Mhm.
songs, but some people are like, they came for a good time, but also you can talk in between your songs. Even if the song's sad, you can still make people laugh in between them, you know,
Mhm.
and that's something I'm learning, you know, you kinda have to be a little comedic, um, and
Mhm.
there's definitely rooms that are easier to play in, like, I prefer playing listening rooms now. I used to kinda get scared to play listening rooms because they are so quiet, um, and I'm so used
Mhm.
to I've been so used to playing kinda the 3-hour bar things, but the more I play listening rooms, the 3-hour bar and grill shows they're not cutting it for me anymore. I'm I'm ready to connect to people, you know, like,
Yeah.
I didn't write these songs to just
That's a
to
big
just be
difference.
put in the background. Yeah. And
Yeah,
I
it's
don't think I'm
hard.
doing the song its service by just, playing just being wallpaper. I don't think that works very well anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm really kinda getting a little bit choosier about what I do, um, and where I play, and that's tough because you still, but I'm learning that you gotta say no sometimes, and, but
Mm.
reading a room is definitely it's nothing that you can learn overnight. It's something that you learn by, you know, actually, it's something you learn through rejection. It's not anything that you learn through acceptance.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, for sure.
that's the gut punch truth. Gotta
So we
get rejected
saw
to get accepted.
Holly Holly and I saw Willie Nelson in Stillwater, Oklahoma, I think, a long time ago, 15 or 20 years ago. And he did his whole show was a medley from beginning to end with no stops. So how do you have a strategy for that? Do you like do two songs and then a talking break, or do you talk between every song?
Um, I like to talk between every song. I like to if the crowd's in it, if they're interested and they're listening, I like to tell stories and, but also I'm having to learn how to do that, how to strategize, like normally I'll
Hmm.
do like, kind of fast, slow. I just kind of try to chop it up that way. So it's never too slow, it's never too fast. It's just kind of like, it's like a nice little ride, Um, so yeah, it just
Right.
kind of depends. If people aren't listening and they're not into it, then I'm not gonna talk in between songs. I'm just gonna probably close my eyes and zone out and just go on autopilot for the next however long. Um, so, there's a
Hmm.
way to win them over, and there's just a time where you're just not gonna win the room, and that's okay, so
Right.
it just kinda just depends, on how I'm feeling too.
Right. Those listening rooms, though,
I hope that
that's
answered
those
your
people are there kind of. No, it definitely did. And those listening rooms, those people are there to kind of have a conversation with you. It's kind of a one-ended thing, but it is kind of a they're there
yeah.
to interact a little bit with you and kind of look you in the eye a little bit.
Yeah, exactly, and it's I mean, it really there's a feeling of peace that I experience on the stage when someone, like, really likes the song. Like, there's this like, I've done my job as a
Hmm.
songwriter. If, maybe I mean, I'm here to I mean, in a way, I guess it's kinda like you're kinda helping people through your music. I mean, the music helped me, why shouldn't it help somebody else? Maybe, that
Hmm.
song encouraged you to, I don't know, call your dad. You haven't talked to your dad in a long time, or maybe it encouraged you to, you know, I don't know, whatever, like, be a better person. I don't know, that it's done that for me, and I feel like that's my job, is to give it back, in
Yeah.
the Bible, Christ, doesn't he say, "Give freely what has been given to you? Freely give what has been freely given to you," and so it feels like, where we that's kinda what my job is I'm I get to write the song. I mean, and to me, that's a
Yeah.
gift from God. I'm supposed to give it back. I'm not supposed to, you know, hide it away and be afraid of it, So, and I love that. There's
Yeah. I think
nothing
that's
more
true.
fulfilling in the world than when someone goes, "Man, I really like that song. That song was really great.
Hmm.
Where can I find that?" Like, I've done my job, You don't always get that, but
Yeah.
when you do, it's like, "Okay, for all the for all the ups and downs, like, for all the downs, this makes me feel this is what I'm here for." So, yeah.
Right. Well, it's working out for you. You've evidently people are responding pretty well to you with your success. You won the Larry Joe Songwriter Showcase here recently. Was that this
Yes.
year?
Yeah, that was this year, yeah, yeah, I don't want to brag, but I'm really excited because I've been told that I'm the first
Mm-hmm.
woman that's won that, and
Wow.
I don't know. There's like I said, I've had a lot of losses, and I'm like, I'm gonna take that win. I'm like, I'm really, I mean,
Take it.
I have been told no so often, and so getting told yes is like, yes, so yeah, I'm excited
Yeah.
about that,
Take a
and it
victory
was
lap.
yeah, exactly, and it was so wonderful, like, that's the thing that I loved about that songwriter showcase is that it was not competitive at all. It didn't feel like
Really.
this weird, gross I don't like that kinda stuff. I really don't I'm not a fan of those kinda competitions because of that energy that it
Yeah.
creates. There's, like, this kind of friction between people that I feel, and,
Mm-hmm.
you get put in your head about, like, well, that imposter syndrome just goes, like, skyrockets high, but that's not the case with Larry Joe Taylor, that songwriter showcase. He does nothing but he's a farmer. He cultivates good soil. He puts good juju in the energy in the area, like, all those people that I met, like, oh my gosh, I was just so grateful to have gotten to be up on the stage with those people, they were amazing. Zach Mayberry,
Right.
who else was it? Carlson Cooley, uh, David Piercy, um, crap, Ryan. There was just I I need to go find their names. I know I don't know, I'm scatterbrained, but it was a privilege to be up on the stage with those people. They were insanely
Mhm.
good, and I
Really?
was just yeah, it was a wonderful experience. My favorite by far, my favorite, like, songwriter type of, mecca, you know, thing. It was all about inspiring
That's
each other.
it,
Like,
huh?
and people, you meet people there and you start writing with them. Like, Zach wrote a song with David, like all these, it's
Hmm.
good. It spins out all kinds of things in different directions, getting to meet all those people. So it
That's
was a
pretty neat.
beautiful event. I loved it. Every bit of it. Yeah.
Hmm. So do you speaking of co-writing, do you generally write alone? Do you ever co-write?
I co-write a little. I try my best to co-write more than normal. I have my little silo, and I kind of get shy and I get nervous to work with other people, and because it is, I mean, there's some people that can co-write like just like crazy good, and I'm like, how do you do that? Because it's such a I think I'm just really I'm scared. I'm scared of rejection. And I don't but I have been able to co-write, and I've been able to get out of my shell, out of my comfort zone a little bit more. And I got to co-write with Covenant, Covey the band. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he's a lot of praise and worship
Hmm.
music, but he's also just a heck of a songwriter, and he's got
Yeah, I know
one of
him.
the smoothest he's got such a smooth voice. And so me and Covey and
Hmm.
his friend David, my friend now, we got to do some co-writing back in winter, back in February, I think. And I mean, that was a powerful experience. That was something else. And I'm still kind of coming down from that co-writing
Really?
experience, but it was super duper encouraging. And it it definitely was like, okay, it's not that scary. You can co-write, and it's gonna be okay. You don't have to be so
Hmm.
scared to interact with people, and you can get out of your sandbox and, you know,
Yeah. That
so
Covey's such a good dude, easygoing and sweet. I mean, that's a good way
yeah.
to get into it there.
Yeah, he's nothing but
Yeah, he's hard to
encouraging
beat.
and supportive, and just he's such a good dude,
Hmm.
and we had a it was I think that was one of the funnest nights I'd had in a long time. So he brought his wife and his baby, and, David came into town. They had, a guy
Hmm.
filming and kinda documenting the whole thing, but we played games till 2 a.m., played
Cool.
Phase 10 and all that stuff after all the kind of the work part of the
Right.
day was done, and it was super duper, it was a blessing. It really was an incredible blessing to
Hmm.
experience
That's
that.
fun.
Yeah, yeah, it was fun.
So you've received numerous awards from East Texas Music Awards, including Entertainer of the Year, Best Song, Best Album, Female Vocalist of the Year, and your guitar guy, Chris Rasco, won Best Guitarist. So tell me
Yes.
something about that.
Well, we we're so grateful for that, all those recognitions. That was really something cool. That whole night, and Chris and me we'd only been dating for about maybe 2 years or so when all that happened, but he kind of moved into East Texas. He's from Rowlett, but he was born and raised here in East Texas too.
Mm.
So anyways, he kind of moved back into the scene and really kind of just, I don't know, just fit in like a glove. Everybody just loves him, and he's incredible as guitar as always. And so it was a really cool night for us. I guess you know how it is sometimes when you have a lot of losses. Like I said, you don't always win. You lose,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I didn't expect the overwhelming amount of love that our community had for us. I didn't realize like how much we were loved and appreciated in the scene, and so those
Yeah.
recognitions really just kind of helped us realize like we're we're not too slouchy. Like we can ease up on ourselves. We don't have to be so hard on ourselves. Like people like what
Mm-hmm.
we do. We don't have to beat ourselves up
Right.
after every show, and because we all do that. I could have done this better, or
Yeah.
this or that, but it was a cool feeling to have all those recognitions. It definitely kind of put me and him at peace with ourselves, because we can definitely be our own worst enemies day in, day out.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that definitely knocked
It's
us off a
easy to.
ledge. It's very easy to,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
It's easy in the music industry. It's so from an artist perspective, you can see so much about where you rank nationally and worldwide. It's easy to start thinking of yourself as small potatoes, and so it's
Yeah,
a good thing that it's such a free market thing. But it's also easy to have doubts about your value in the in in the music world.
oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, it's tough. It really is tough. It's
Hmm.
what do I say? Every day is a trust fall. So, not it's just you gotta just believe in what you're doing and keep going, and it's taken me a long
Hmm.
time to really believe in what I'm doing. It still kind of feels, you know, like I still beat myself up a lot, but it's good whenever you can remind yourself like, hey, you're doing this for a reason, and like if you're gonna go get it,
Hmm.
you better go get it. You know, don't
Hmm.
be getting too sad on yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because a lot of people would love to be where you are. That's what I always kind of tell myself. Like you're 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 dissatisfied with it because you see yourself in perspective of the whole world. But a lot of people see you as something completely different, something amazing, and something great. So you know,
Yeah.
it's easy to lose sight of that with all the social media stuff and
Yeah.
having access to everybody in the whole world.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely it's tough. And it's all about, like I have to change my perspective a lot on different things and whatnot, and just keep fighting the good fight. Like if you want it that bad enough, then uh you got to go after it, and you kind of, just don't let anybody you don't let those voices take over and control, and I don't know, what is it that our buddy Kenneth Waters says, and I don't know where he learned, if he can, I don't know where it came from, but he says, comparison is the thief of all joy. So you literally like,
Mm,
you just gotta
I've
stay in
heard
your
that.
lane and stay focused, so I got to remind myself of
Hmm.
that a whole lot.
So with the music industry being driven by social media and algorithms, and I don't even know what that word means, but for a lot of artists like you, it's the music business is all about the live performance and about the interaction with the. What are your thoughts on all that, and how do you approach the social media aspect, and how do you engage people to get them to come out to live performances?
Well, I know that's tough because it's a social media is such a it helps so much, it's definitely like it's a tool and you got to use it, but
Mm-hmm.
it's like it's a necessary evil now in a way, but I'm happy to use it, because it's a tool and it's free marketing. So
Mm-hmm.
you got a show, you better blast it on Facebook or blast it on Instagram, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of one of those things now that I'm doing
Mm-hmm.
music full time. It's something that I feel like I have to really pay attention to, but it's something that I need to, like, there's times where I'm like, the wall's going up. I'm not going to go back into Facebook land or Instagram land or TikTok land. I've, I now I definitely feel like I have to post daily. Something's always got to, you got to keep feeding it. You can't lose your place in the race. But and
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that. I'm not really cool with that. And I know there's some people that they can really compartmentalize it and just kind of, get they can put space in between. And I'm getting better at that. I'm really trying. Because it can take over your life. It really can. But
It definitely
for
can.
shows, yeah, for shows it's just like, coming up with something unique to say, in your captions. I guess that's kind of where I get held up, and trying to get people
Mm-hmm.
to come out to shows is like, well, how do I really compel someone to come out here? So, you know, but also you never can go wrong with just being genuine. Like, just be
Right.
genuine, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, like, that's that's tough because you're still trying to promote a show, but it's like, well, what's really important? What do you want people to know about this show? Like, why do you want them to come out? Like, what's important to you about it? And so
Mm-hmm.
it's fun to be goofy. Sometimes you can say goofy stuff like, I'll be signing donuts, y'all, or whatever. I'll be like singing songs about donuts and food, and I don't know, just you can say goofy stuff to kind of be be silly with it, I guess, but you can never go wrong with being genuine. And I think that's kind
Right.
of been my cause of like my action. That's my cause, and that's kind of my
Yeah.
why behind it. And it's a tool. It's just a tool. It's not, it's not anything that it's easy to get obsessed over it. And I'm like, I can't
Mm-hmm.
do that to myself. It's a tool. It's just a tool. And
Right.
I'm just trying to be as genuine as possible. If you meet me in person, most people say that I'm pleasant to be around or whatever. So it's like, okay, well, make that in your social media. Make that who you are, so, you know, don't be mean,
Mm-hmm.
don't be nasty, be nice. And so I just try to be genuine and use it as a tool, and not and put my
Right.
wall up when I need to. It's like it's time to exit Facebook land. Go, you know, Go have iced tea and sit on the porch.
Well,
Get off your phone.
what's strange is that you're basically a poet with a guitar, and so it seems like words would like just cascade out of you, and you would say the most beautiful little thing and make everybody want to come out to the show. But that little pressure that social media puts on you, it makes it hard to because it's going to be there forever. Like you don't get a rewrite. I guess you could, but people are going to see it just the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's why people like stories so much, like like when you add something to your story, because
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of like when you said that, it reminded me of like how it feels in a studio sometimes. Cause like when you record a studio album, the pressure is, well, it's going to be there. Like that's the final, like that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely see
That's why
that.
they call it the record.
Yeah, yeah, it's a record. It's a piece of history now. It's like a piece of your history, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a piece of music now. And So yeah, I get that. Like, but going on social media and trying to and post it feels that same kind of pressure or anxiety is there, and it's I
Mm-hmm.
guess honestly, like I'm not a huge user of Chat GPT at all, but you can use it to like at least get things starting. Like, hey, make me a social media caption about this really great show I have upcoming, and make it whatever. And
Right.
so I you can there's tools out there to kind of help feed it through, but it
Mhm.
definitely it's a hang up. It's a hang up, and it's
Yeah,
silly.
it is.
It's like all the pressure that you put on yourself. It's like, what do you
It
know
is.
what it is?
So being the poet that you are, and kind of the world being as it is today, do you find it harder or easier to write a song now as opposed to when you started writing songs?
Yeah, it's it's definitely a little bit more challenging to write a song nowadays because the more you write, the more, you know, you're like you have a track record or whatever. You have all these songs, and so if you don't feel like you're improving from the last thing you wrote, then it's harder to write. So but then there's times where you're not, you may not be in that mood, and you might be really easygoing. You're like, yeah, I'll just write a song, whatever. It's I'm just writing a song. But I definitely feel like it's a
Mhm.
little bit more challenging because whenever I was younger, um, and so fresh faced and just full of like inspiration and uh, I guess like I wasn't my own worst critic at that point. Whenever I was just starting
Yeah, and
out,
everything was
and so
original.
yeah, everything was original and new, and my imagination was just
Mhm.
feeding me all these great ideas, and so, you know, looking
Mhm.
back now, I'm like, "Well, those weren't really that great because I've come so you put in a lot of years of work." And, like, when I think when you're starting out, it's just you're not your own worst critic at that point, and so you have a lot of you have, like, a lot of, uh everything's new, and everything feels
Mhm.
unique and inspiring, and so the older you get, I think, and just the more you write, the more you're like, "Well, that's a good idea, but I don't think it's really worth pursuing," or, I guess you just get a
Mhm.
little bit choosier about your what you're willing to write, and it's weird because 'cause I'll have ideas, like, I could have at least 1 a day, or maybe a few lines. I literally will, like, write a few lines, like, in a car. I drive a lot, to shows, and so I'll write a few lines, and then it just it's just kinda like a little piece of paper, just kinda gets wadded up in the trash. I never see it again. But it's in my mind, and
Mhm.
I'll write at least, a little bit and kinda chase down the rabbit hole and then go, I'll just go turn around and come back up, And I
Yeah.
don't really know why that happens. I think it just, I think you just kinda learn what you're kinda willing to put your energy into and what you're not willing to, but also I think it's
Mhm.
because there's that inner critic that goes like, you can do better than that, come on." Like,
Yeah. Yeah,
so,
exactly.
you know yeah, it's sad though. It is kind of a shame, but, 'cause like, that's what all those journals in that big old tub out there in my garage are. It's a bunch of stuff that, it's documented, it's there, but it may just not be worth
Mhm.
pursuing. But that
Right.
doesn't mean that it won't have its time in the sun though either. That's one thing I've learned is that I will write something 10 years ago, find it in a notebook and go, "Wow, hold on, there's something there." That actually happened with Old Frame of Mind. It's
Mhm.
a song that
Yeah.
I wrote it in 2013, and I found it in a notebook and was like, I mean, I've altered it. I changed it up, but it's still the original idea still had to be there for it to be changed. So yeah, it's I guess it's just kind of it just depends on the day.
Right. Yeah.
So
That's
sometimes it's
true. I mean,
easy,
you can
sometimes
turn
it feels
that's
easier, sometimes it feels difficult.
and those lyrics are funny. Like I say, some days they just hit you different than other days, and there's a
It's
and
true.
they'll strike you as special, and it'll just ring in your ears a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So, what impact do you hope your songwriting has on people who hear
Um, Positive. I just I just
them?
I really just want people to have a positive experience when they hear the music,
Hmm.
or I don't I don't want people to ever feel alienated, or I want people to feel understood, and if my song
Hmm.
can make someone feel a little bit more understood with themselves maybe, or just like then don't feel as alone, that's
Hmm.
I feel like that's really what I'm wired to do. What the songs I've been given, you know, that's what they're supposed to do, is make people not feel so alone, feel understood, feel heard. Um, n
Hmm.
there's a lot of loneliness in the world, there really is, there's too much loneliness, but, like, the one way you really get real lonely is not talking about it, or not having anybody around to talk to, or, not having a community, and so, to me, the songs that I'm writing are meant to feel like a big hug around you, like, you're understood, you're loved, you are here for a reason, like, you've been placed here in this life for a reason, and I want I don't know, I want that for my songs. I want people to feel just like, I understand. I get where you're coming from, and I feel that way too, and I'm really glad that you shared that or whatever. I feel like that's really what it's all
Hmm.
about, is that.
I love that.
And yeah, it's important to me. And that's kind of one of the hardest things about whenever you're not connecting at a show with the audience. It feels like you're not doing your job, like,
Hmm.
so. But you're not gonna connect everybody, so I kinda have
Right.
to learn, but that's the impact I want my songs to leave, is people feeling not as alone, feeling like, "Yeah, I hear you. That was a yeah, I feel that way too. Thanks for saying that," you know? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's
That's
what I hope
great.
it
I
the
love
impact
that.
is, at least. Yeah.
Or do you have a particular song in your past, not yours, that kind of did that for you?
Yes, let me see here.
Or multiple
There's
songs
so
maybe?
many. I know, there's so
Mhm.
many, let me think here. Well, oh my gosh, okay. Come on now, I'm thinking here.
Well, remember we're edited, so if it takes you a minute, then just just
Yeah,
just come
okay.
up with one.
Yeah, man, there's so many songs out there that really do hit me differently and in crazy ways. One of them, it's one I've been kind of recently playing, it's a song that George Jones cut called "Good Year for the Roses."
Whew,
That
I sing
song,
that almost every day.
yeah, that
That's
song
one of my
is
favorite songs.
it's incredible. It is
It
incredible.
is.
Like, it says so much with just stating facts.
Mhm.
It's just like, but the loneliness is so there, but there's still that
Mhm.
hope, like, he's saying
Mhm.
basically, like, this whole house still has, like, little pieces of this woman here, like the lip print on the coffee cup and the
Mhm.
cigarettes left there in the ashtray,
An
just the little
ashtray.
bit of evidence
Mhm.
that she cared at one point, she loved me at one point, there's proof still, even if it's like a a freaking cigarette butt in an ashtray, there's proof she cared. And then,
Mhm.
but what a good year for the roses. It's like, whoa, what is he even saying? Like, what is he? It's like basically saying, like, but something's gonna live on. Like, the roses are still blooming. There's
Mhm.
still something is still gonna live on, even if love can't live in this house, or if she can't be here with me. Like,
Mhm.
something still lives on. Um, even even in the sorrow, and oh, that song,
Mhm.
I think it just kinda I was listening to that podcast, the Cocaine and Rhinestones podcast. You ever listen to that?
Mhm.
With, a
Mhm.
yeah, and they were talking about A Good Year for the Roses, and, of course, George
Mm.
Jones's story is, like, it's crazy,
Yeah,
but, like,
it's
his life
crazy.
is just
Mhm.
insane, and so when you hear
Mhm.
him singing that song, you're like, you feel every ounce of his pain, and it is
Yeah.
incredible, you know? So that song
Mhm.
really I think that one was kind of a just a it just breaks me in half, you know? So that one's a good
Man,
one,
it's a puncher. Yeah. You can just
it's a
feel
puncher, yeah,
you can just
and
smell
then
that cigarette smoke.
you can, yeah, the way that he sings it and
Mhm.
the way that his little vocal runs just kinda scamper all over the
I
place,
know.
but are still perfectly in tune, it's
Yep.
insane, so, that song definitely that one knocked me down for a minute, and then it's weird, Swingin' Doors, that Merle Haggard tune, I hadn't
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
covered a whole lot of Merle Haggard, and there was a there was an instant, like, just, like, some friends were going through some different things and, in a area of my life, and so I was, like, experiencing this thing that they were going through, and then this song came on, and it matched it. It put it in sync. Like, they were just syncing up,
Hmm.
like, "Holy crap, this is their story," like, um,
Mhm.
and it's so sad. I've got swinging doors, and I've got swinging
Yeah.
doors,
A
a
jukebox
jukebox, and
and
a
a
bar
bar stool.
stool. Yeah. They've got
Mhm.
everything in here to drive me crazy, and I've got everything it takes to lose my
Mhm.
mind, like, but it's so upbeat and
It's
so
well
happy.
written.
It's yeah,
Mhm.
but it's like, holy crap, that's so sad. Like, I gave up my
It
heart to keep you
is.
satisfied, like, woo-wee.
Mhm.
It's just and I was telling me and Chris were talking about this on the porch the other day about why I think this is maybe this is why it's getting harder to, to write songs for me is because now that I'm trying to write more country, more in the vein of country, like, it's hard to write a country song because I think you have to, like you have to write for, like, deeply, but also not too deeply.
Mhm.
You have to, like, say things at the surface so that way someone can
Mhm.
go, "Okay, well, I understand what you're saying there," but also if someone really wanted to take it to a deeper level, they could. So, honestly, country
Mhm.
music, people that write country music songs, like, back in the day, they're geniuses, like,
Mhm.
the people that wrote Swingin' Doors and Good Year for the Roses, I'm like, it's genius because you can say things at such a surface level where everybody gets it. It's like, "Well, yeah, I understand that.
Mhm.
It's not making me confused." But then if you really wanted to take it to a deeper level, you could really see some dimension to the song, and so
Yeah,
it's a
definitely.
it's a hang up for me because I'm like, "Man, you know, I don't wanna I don't wanna confuse anybody, but I also wanna say things so clearly, but also
Mhm.
deeply." And that's a
Yeah.
tough boat to drive or a tough boat to ride along in, a tough, ship to steer, whatever I'm trying to say, you get it. It's a challenge.
Yeah, it is. You have to be authentic, but still leave room for other people's interpretation, for them to insert themselves into the story a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
It's almost like you are setting them up to feel something, and you don't get to control what they
Mhm.
feel through the song. You just
Right.
get to set up the environment through the song, and it's up to them. It's like a choose
Mhm.
your own adventure thing, but, so that I
Hmm.
really do think that songs are incredibly powerful. Like, they really can, it's a gift. Music is a gift, and it's a tool. It's something that, um, I don't know, it's something that it's it can do a whole lot of good, but so, yeah, you're
Mhm.
exactly right. You're just kinda setting them up to feel you don't get to control that, but you get to create the environment in
Right.
which they do, so it's a cool thing.
Mhm. Yep, it's pretty neat. So what
Yeah.
hidden hobbies or talents do you have that your fans don't know about?
What hidden hobbies do I have?
Yeah, or talents, or that you don't share with very many people.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, let me see here. Let me think. Um, well, uh, Chris says I make really good green beans,
Ooh,
and
that's a good one.
so yeah, I I'm not really been. I never really cooked when I was like a kid or whatever. I mean, we cooked occasionally, but I never it it wasn't really a big part of my upbringing. So I guess I'm kind of getting pretty decent at cooking, like green beans and things like that. I'm like learning how to do how to wife and stuff like that, but I love to yeah, learn how to wife it up. I'm wifing it up over here. Um but I'm learning how to do graphic design. I'm trying to do that more and more, and
Well,
I guess it's kind of a hidden hobby. Um, I love I love drawing, and I would do it a lot more, but I have that whole like what we were talking about earlier, that hang up where you kind of there's a lot of pressure that if it's not going to be great, then I just don't even want to do it. I don't even want to try. So I'm really
mhm,
trying to talk myself off the ledge and do more drawing because I used to draw all the time when I was a kid, and
right.
I just kind of stopped doing it. It's really weird how it like, I drew all the time when I was
Mhm,
a little kid. I'm like, why don't I do that more? I mean, it was something that I loved. And so that's definitely a hidden hobby is, drawing. And
interesting.
I love thrifting. Thrifting is definitely a huge hobby of mine. I love going to the thrift store. That
Mm,
is, that is like, uh, what do you call it? Like kind of like when you just need to go like a sanctuary environment in a way.
like
It's
a
like
release.
if I
Yeah.
need yeah, if I need to just get away and use a whole different part of my brain,
Mhm.
I'm going to a thrift store. It's really weird, but I love it.
So
I don't have to buy
so as
anything.
one of your hobbies, you want to list shopping. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, shopping. Yeah, I like to shop, but I like buying
Well,
used stuff. I'm a
yeah,
flea market
I get that.
thrifting kinda gal. I don't
Speaking
like
of
going
the
into
art you
department
were
stores
talking
as much
about,
anymore.
did you do any of the art on? Did you do any of your album covers? I noticed a lot of them are really artsy and kind of really cool looking. Did you have any part in doing
Yeah,
that?
so I did some of it, but I used a buddy of mine, Robbie Woodward, and another buddy of mine named Eric Orange for a few of them. The wild card, that cover art was actually the little girl it's something I drew. But I drew
Oh,
her
neat.
and kind of the little butterfly and all that. But I didn't digitize it. So Robbie he worked really well on it. He can take my drawings and just, make them look really great. So he did that one. Um, and then
Cool.
I did When God Made Horses. I did that one. But yeah, I'm trying to do my own as much as I can, but I also like to let people do their thing, like
Mm-hmm.
because if I will overthink it to death to where I won't be happy with it, and I'm always happier when someone else does it, like, whenever someone else
Mm-hmm.
takes their spin on it, and it's just a fresh perspective, and I'm always, for the most part, like, "Yeah, you nailed it. Good job." You got it,
Yeah.
so I try to do as much as I can on my own, but I also know that there's just times where I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
overthink that one. I'll let someone else do that."
Yeah, that's how I feel about it too. People are good at things like that, and I should let them do that. Just let them handle it.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, and people wanna do that for I think it's better
They
to
do.
I mean, it's better collaboration, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
it shows, like, I don't know, it's not I feel like sometimes, like, trying to do everything on your own can get kinda, you wear yourself down, but also it's, like, not really it's not you're not, like, really doing a service to your community. Like, if you have people that have talents like that, it's
Right.
like, let them shine. Like, why you gotta do
Mm-hmm.
everything, So,
Yeah, exactly.
but,
Yeah.
you know,
I
sometimes it comes down to money. Sometimes you got to do it on
Yeah,
your own, you know.
I've been trying to get Holly on board with hiring somebody to mow our grass for that very reason. Like, that's not
Yep.
one of the things I'm good at.
Yeah. Let somebody else like shine and rock out at that. I don't want to do for sure. Uh,
So, what upcoming projects or releases are you excited about? Do you tell us about new music or collaborations we should look out for?
yes. Okay. So I got a really cool tour coming up with my buddy JD Graham. He's a songwriting friend of mine. He's incredible. Ooh, he's incredible. And we're gonna go on tour in September. We'll be hitting up some of the Midwest and some of the East Coast. So North Carolina, South Carolina, Illinois, and Wisconsin. So we're just kind of going all over there. And we'll be on the road for about 3 weeks. And I'm super excited about that. It's going to be uh, all listening rooms basically. And so
Cool.
I'm so excited for that. I cannot wait to see what happens out there on the road. I'm so pumped for that. And then I've got my album coming out. It's going to be called Lonely Neon Hearts, and it'll be coming out.
Good name.
I'm trying this fall. Yeah, it's a cool project. And I actually just went down to Austin uh last Wednesday to do a photo shoot for it. So we got to go and shoot some really cool photos and some really neat bars down there. And so I've got my album artwork. I'm working that up and getting ready to put out another album. And it's been a long time in the making. I'm ready to have something out. You know,
Right.
it's crazy doing music full time now. I realize like you have to keep new music out there. You gotta put albums out and or singles or
Hmm.
whatever EPs, but it's really important to keep that fed. And I haven't really been good at that whenever I wasn't doing music full time. So now that I'm doing it full time, there's a lot of like um there's just the need to keep new music spinning and getting out there. People want to hear it, and so I mean, it's expensive and it's definitely a labor of love, but they look forward to it, and it's a good way to engage your crowd
Hmm.
and get people spinning your stuff. So I'm looking forward to the tour in September
Hmm.
and definitely looking forward to the album coming out. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hopefully everybody will go check that out.
Yeah. I hope so. Yeah. I need them spins.
Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. Be sure to go follow Meredith Crawford, and her links are provided in this description. Meredith, thanks so much for blessing us with your presence today.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. This was a pleasure. Thanks so much.
It was fun. Hey, everybody, thanks for tuning in to today's episode of Come and Pick It. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to hit that subscribe button and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us reach more listeners like you. We've got a brand new episode of Come and Pick It next week and more amazing guests lined up for you. Don't miss it. Until then, keep on picking it.